Hey everyone, Brantflix here, finally back with another video on Eternal Return. I know it's been a while since I've posted, and that's because real life and just kind of lack of desire to create content was hitting me. Eternal Return obviously was my main game that I was creating content for, and it was a lot of fun back then. Then they made some changes that I didn't really like, so I stopped playing. But I think the fact that I'm back now should tell you how much fun I'm having with this game right now. So, Noble Neuron has finally released patch 1.0 for Eternal Return. If you guys don't know what that means, that basically means that they have released their system-wide upgrade to the game. And this comes with, like UI updates, performance updates, which is huge, total game changes, and a few other things that might come off as a bit off-putting if you are a very old veteran to the game. So, first of all, cat out of the bag. Right now, only squads is available in Eternal Return, so that means there's no solos, there's no duos, but as long as the game, sells the population for it in NA, you can actually solo queue squads pretty consistently during the evening when the queues are popping, which was something that you couldn't really do consistently in the last few months because people weren't playing. Like, you couldn't really queue squads at all, you couldn't really queue duos at all, you could queue solos, but even solos would be kind of half-baked, a few people here and there. But the fact now that you can even queue solo and get games is a huge deal. And I have to bring this up because this is something that's very important. Stuff like this cannot sustain itself if we do not maintain a player base. Obviously, it should be better of an ask than just some random content creator saying, please play the game, you need to play the game in order for the game to live, but it is true. Eternal Return historically is a game that is way more fun the more players there are. Whether that's veteran players, basic players, or even new players, this is a game that needs new faces in the game for it to be actually self-sustaining. And I think this patch is really a good start for that because this patch just has so many new people playing. I have so many friends that have come back, I have so many friends that want to play that are now playing again, I have so many friends that, were like, oh, I haven't played in a few months, but now I want to play, which is a huge deal because, again, that they will find other people like them that are newer to the game, that are a bit lower in skill compared to the people that have thousands of hours sunken in because of how old the game is. If you have ever not wanted to play Eternal Return because you were concerned about kind of getting unfairly outclassed by your opponents, right now is the time to play because right now is a time where that is least likely to happen just because of how many people are coming back and being new and how the quality of games are, because I think right now people are taking it chill. Obviously, there are some people that are really sweating it out and trying to really win the game no matter what the cost, but those games are pretty far and few between, so especially if you're newer, again, if you're pre-made with friends and you're new, then the likelihood is that's gonna be higher, but it's kind of like a point of where it's oh, is it really that surprising? I'm sure we've all played online competitive friends with sorry, I'm sure we've all played online competitive games with friends, and you have one vibe and your opponent team has a completely different vibe, and it quote-unquote ruins your fun. That is just something that's going to be a part of every game. The fact that it's in Eternal Return doesn't really knock it off as a game, it just means that there is that competitive ferocity that exists to get better and to improve. And I do think the more players that join, the more that divide will be filtered out. So maybe if North America has 10,000 players at some point, maybe 12,000 players at some point, then the really sweaty people that want to be competitive will naturally filter out into a point where they won't show up for those people who are just there for the exploration and the creativity aspects. And again, that's the reason why I really want to push videos, because I did tell myself a year ago that if the game felt good to play again, that I would come back, and the game feels amazing to play, so I'm back. Obviously, I've had this gameplay video coming on, and this is a straight recording of my POV. I didn't have to go back into the game and record the gameplay, I just was able to play, which is absolutely incredible. Also, I'm realizing my mouse isn't capturing, which is kind of awkward, but I guess that's what it is. And I think this was actually I think my rig could barely handle recording and playing the game at the same time, but I also had Discord running. I also had a stream running by accident because I was being a bit of an idiot, and I had a video running because I was listening to some music in the background. I could run this game perfectly fine for 5 hours, which was something that wasn't possible before this patch. And I've had a lot of friends that had constant crashes, that had constant problems. Like, they had to quit the game because it literally would just not open anymore. And they're all back. It's actually crazy how good of a performance update this game has had. It's something that I think a lot of people have begged for, and we finally have it. It's absolutely incredible that we're finally back in the state where almost every computer, as far as I can tell, can run it. Besides the few here and there that have like major crash issues, which for an indie game, it's not really that surprising, especially one that is kind of freshly patched into a new Unity engine. Like, the fact there's been as few issues as there have been is pretty impressive, because usually it's like a lot of problems with these new like system upgrades and hardware upgrades, but this one's been pretty smooth, which is nice. So enough about the game and like me begging you to play. Let's talk about the actual changes they've made besides this quads update. So if you notice at the bottom, you might notice a new button at the F that is suspiciously looking like a summoner spell from a certain popular MOBA game, League of Legends. Eternal Return and Nimble Neuron have decided to create a new system called Tactical Skills, which adds a very interesting flavor to the game. And it's not in the way that you'd expect. So obviously in games that we know about, these kind of like supplementary skills are here to like augment your gameplay in a way that just like enhances your character, or it's like enhances your gameplay in a very basic and simplistic way. Like Flash just gives you more mobility, Ghost gives you more mobility, Teleport gives you more safety at macro, like you have like 15 defensive skills and 15 defensive skills that all kind of function the same way. That's not really true for Eternal Return. You have so many interesting augments in this game. Obviously, you still have your basic like heal and dashes and movement speed increases, but you also have these like AoE damage outputs. Like, I'm running this augment, I think called the Blade of Truth, that gives me a bunch of AoE damage. There's one that's kind of like a heal, but it's timed and delayed, so that there's like some amount of risk to casting it. There's another dash/blink skill that gives you more attack range, so that you can actually it's like not blink because you can't go over walls, but it gives you an additional effect that differentiates itself enough from blink that's actually interesting. There's like Quake, which is an AoE slow that also has an upgrade that just like does random AoE damage every few meters. Like, it's actually really interesting how they've managed to create these tactical skills, which by all means could have just been a ripoff of what summoner spells were, but Nimble Neuron has managed to make their own unique twist, and it's actually really interesting. Like, I really enjoy the change because it's more exploration, it's more experimentation, and I do think that one of the things I really missed in this game was like build diversity / like macro creativity, which again is still, I guess, maybe a little lacking compared to before. But when I mean before, I mean like season 1, when the game wasn't really figured out before. Like, I'm not talking about like last year before. Like, this game feels so fresh. There's so much to explore. They've upgraded zones, they moved items, they've created new items. They've done so much with items to allow you to just build your character the way you want and not be punished. Which reminds me, if you'll notice, so if you guys came back from a very long time ago, you'll know about transition items or legendary equipment. So legendary equipment in this game is denoted by the yellow border, or I guess orange, I don't really know what exact shade it is, but you'll see my chest piece right now is a legendary item. And if you guys came from a while back, you would know that legendary items used to be this really coveted, like extremely rare resource that basically guaranteed that you're gonna place top 3 if you got one before. That's no longer the case. Now legendary items are more like natural upgrades to your character's progression, which honestly, now that I've like sat on it for a long time, feels way better than what legendary items were before, because before it just felt like chance. Now it's like, if you play the game, as you play the game, you're supposed to get stronger. And how do you show that you're getting stronger? Your items like stronger, right? In the past, you just used to have mastery. Like, who cares? You had an invisible number that barely anyone could see in the past. But now you have these visible like color upgrades, kind of like every other battle royale, where the more dangerous your color was, the stronger you were. And I think that actually is a pretty natural system upgrade. Again, didn't like this system before because I just enjoyed like how special these legendary equipment were. But now that everyone can get it, and now that it makes sense, like naturally you gain more and more of these over time for killing other players or killing animals, it just feels really good. I don't know how it will translate into like solos if it ever comes back, but for squads it does feel pretty nice because it really shows how much you've upgraded yourself over the game. Like if you end the game with mostly legendary items, you know you've done good. If you end the game somehow in like second place and you have no legendary items, then it's like, oh my god, I really played super well because I had lower stats, but I still won somehow, right? So again, even though once upon a time I didn't really enjoy how it worked, now I'm like pretty into it. It's a really nice feeling, and it's really just a good upgrade, especially for new players, because now they'll understand why they lost. Like in the past, you could argue, oh, like I didn't really understand why I lost. I had 1 yellow item, they had 0. Why did I get destroyed so hard? And the answer would be like, oh, well, you see, they had 5 more of this invisible number that you can't really see easily. And they'd be like, oh, so I lost because of an invisible number? And then you have to like explain like, yeah, that is what you lost to. But now it's like, oh, see, you took this fight against a squad that had like 7 more of these shiny items, so you were down pure power, and you also didn't play it that well, so therefore that's why you lost. Instead of having to tell them, well, you know, you did outplay them, but they had better numbers than you, therefore you lost, right? Obviously, the argument still ends up being the same because it's like, oh, legendary items have better stats, but in the end, it's just more, I guess, tangible. It's like, oh, I can see that they had better items than me, instead of having to guess, oh, I don't really know what 5 weapon mastery means to 15, right? So, yeah. I think I'll be making more content on this game. Probably make a few tier lists just because that's really easy content, and I do want to get this channel active and going again. Yeah. I hope to see you guys again later. This game is genuinely very, very fun, and I hope you all come back and have a blast. I'm trying to think of anything else to sign off with, just because it's been so long since I've made a video, but honestly, there really isn't much. I'm really excited to make more videos again, because I do think this game deserves another boom with content, and I do think there's like a lot of Twitch content. YouTube content has always been very sparse. Shout out to, you know, It's Levi for constantly being on the grind. If you don't know his channel, please check it out. He's like the only Eternal Return YouTuber in North America that still makes content at a very regular pace on the North America side, so please, like, even if I go away, that man will always be there, and his content is always excellent. Yeah, so that'll be it for the shoutouts. Maybe by the end of this week or in the middle of this week, I'll have kind of like a video to explain characters and how they feel, but until then, I will see you guys next time. Have a good night, or a good morning, or a good evening. Don't really know when people watch these videos. See you guys next time. Bye bye.